What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary Free. I want to talk about this article with Sean Grady, and I think to me it really speaks about where this game is and how it's gotten there. So this interview is nearly 20 minutes. In the beginning, he talks about the skill stick on offense, deepening the user control, bringing back the truck stick. Apparently the Jurtle was only in the beta. The run defense getting easier with breakdown tackles, and the right stick now being used for pass rush feedback. He reiterates the fear ultimately in the community is that next gen will be a port, but he continues here to stress that it is a unique experience, but they will not require gamers to purchase on both content. And that's where things start to really go off the rails to a degree. Is he mentions initially that strategy is a part of Madden where they're working on, and this is done in the context of the interviewer talking about having went back and played with Mike Vick in the earlier Maddens. So, in this conversation, he brings up that pursuit angles need to be addressed in this game. I want to make sure you guys completely understand. Both Axis and Maximum Football have came into the marketplace with games and have a more consistent pursuit experience than EA does, who has been refining it for countless years. So I don't know if it's a programming issue, a personnel issue, a game issue, but the fact that we're even mentioning pursuit angles discussing Madden 21 is a bit insulting to the gamer because it just shows us we've continually gotten a broken product. Now, he also brings up two very specific scenarios, which I really find extremely interesting in terms of how this game is actually built and how it progresses. So, one of the topics is quarterbacks running backwards and throwing the ball. Now, this has plagued Madden. There's no two ways around this. And yet, again, here we are in Madden 21, where we've actually got players in the league now like Pat Mahomes that can generate some of this conversation about running backwards and throwing, and we're still trying to determine whether or not quarterbacks need to drop deeper than the pocket, running backwards, and then throwing the ball. We know that in most case scenarios, without pressure, it's not realistic, and they're still talking about refining this. These are things that should be addressed when they're looking at the feedback gamers have. They should be able to see how far quarterbacks are when they release the ball. And anyone that's played online would probably be able to confidently tell you, in most cases, the quarterback is 15 to 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That should be the basis of what they're building off. What is happening consistently in our game, and how can we address it to make it more realistic? Because during this interview, he uses simulation many times to describe what they're working towards. Interestingly enough, he also brings up the fact that they don't want competitive matchups where players only run. He talks about balanced playbooks and attacks, and actually mentions to the interviewer that if he had a more balanced game plan, he must be playing a more realistic approach to the game and therefore winning. Anyone who actually spends time with this game knows that could not be further from the truth. Anyone that watched the Madden Challenge, which is supposed to highlight the best players in the game, knows that it's a completely false statement to make. Yet we're still sitting here having these discussions with someone that is apparently so disconnected from their game, they're not aware of how it's played competitively or casually. Now, to further that point, he talks about Face of the Franchise being one of the... Again, I don't have access to all of EA's data, but I do have access to YouTube, and I do have a good amount of people that follow my channel. I don't know anyone in our community that is a Face of the Franchise channel. I don't know anyone in our community that was a long shot channel. I appreciate the storytelling, the college, the high school. He talks here for the first time about the mini seasons, which had been projected as a season before, but now he defines it as knowing it's only 4 games. But the ultimate insult comes at the end of this. Now understand, the last time we saw Sean, he was discussing the Face of the Franchise hashtag. This video was recorded after that, mind you. Now I just want to say to you, as a gamer, how do you feel knowing that he spent 3 times the amount of time talking about Pat Mahomes' contract and how EA looks at its cover athletes than he does franchise mode? Things that aren't relevant to the game selling. Pat Mahomes' contract which I don't even know if EA is going to put 10-year contracts in the game, to be fair, and how they select their cover athlete has no bearing on Madden selling. Yet he spends 3 times the amount of time talking about that as he does franchise mode, which just trended and gamers used to purchase the game for. Now, as bad as that sounds, he only spends 36 seconds in a almost 20-minute interview, 36 seconds addressing franchise mode. He indicates that they're working on some new things. They have features they're going to share, which I cannot wait to hold him to. He says that it's too early to get in the specifics of it, but plans are in place for a roadmap, which I've long said the community should see. And then he cites, in the coming weeks, they are going to share this with the community. Well, that's something I'm really looking forward to, because it seems interesting that we can go through an entire interview and hear such specifics about refinement to gameplay, such direct concerns about what they want and don't want in the game. But when it came down to franchise mode, there's this cloud of uncertainty. To me, that's based on them not having anything in place. That's based on them not knowing what they're going to do. And that is a real problem. That is a continued problem. And that is a factor of what got us here to begin with. I understand they cannot sit down and completely rebuild this in 1 week. I get that. But they can sit down, take the community's feedback, and create a plan to execute the vision that we have for their game the same way they execute the vision their other gamers do. Where did the face of the franchise building come from? It was based on community feedback. They wanted more college experience. They wanted more storytelling. They wanted more variety. Every one of those boxes, at least from the outside, were checked this year. Why is it so impossible to go to the franchise community and check those same boxes? When in reality, if you are basing this whole interview on simulation football, you don't need community input. You simply need to look at what's happening in the NFL and match your game to that. We don't even have a full coaching staff. That's a big problem. We should not have to tell you that. We should not have to ask for that. Yet here we are in an interview where within the 36 seconds he talks about the most pressing question this game has, and he can't say with any certainty what they're going to do. Why not just say, yeah, we'd like to get a lot of things put in the game in terms of team building, in terms of drafting, in terms of scouting, in terms of coaching staffs and returning players, in meaningful things that allow gamers to return to the franchise mode. But all of that is just remiss. I don't know if these interviewers that they come to now want to softball questions. But there's really very little in this interview that actually would not be answered if you just went and did some very, very light research about the game. And that excludes going and looking at the blogs. It's interesting to me that last week I invited anyone from EA that wanted to come and talk about this game on my channel, on my dime, and nothing came of it. Yet Tony Bruno responded in less than 12 hours to come on my channel to talk about Madden. If you as a gamer don't understand that as a problem in our community, then I'm not sure what to tell you. Whether I've got 5 subscribers, 15, or 50,000 should not matter. If you have someone reaching out to a gaming company and asking, hey, can we get some clarification for all of us as gamers? Those should be responded to, whether they love your channel, hate your channel, or fall somewhere in between. When you have people outside of EA Sports coming to my channel, not just Tony, but former players like Uchi in the past, we've had players like Johnny Rutledge come on, yet EA is very few and far between with taking critical interviews. They'll take these promotional opportunities to sell their game, but when it comes down to actually putting things in place, making commitments and promises that their game will be better, that is something they generally don't do. And if no other reason, it's got us to where we are now, where the game is apparently set to be another failure, and for all we know, may not even be successful going into next gen. If you think a user score below 2 is not a failure, then you need to reevaluate how you assess games, especially ones that have a legacy that Madden does. Love to know your thoughts on this. Appreciate you checking it out. I will be back in the week with more commentary.